Hi, this is Rishabh Rajan for Ask.Audio, reviewing the 3 new modulation effects from Arturia. Arturia is known for analog modeling, and they have some of the best software emulations of hardware effects as well as synthesizers. In this bundle, Arturia has included a chorus dimension D effect, which is an emulation of the Roland Dimension D STD320. Then you get the Flanger BL20, which I believe is an emulation of the MXR Flanger/Doubler hardware unit. And then lastly, you get the Phaser Bytron, which is an emulation of the Mutron biphase stompbox pedal. So the first effect we're checking out in the Arturia modulation bundle is the Chorus Dimension D. This is a model of the classic Roland Dimension D hardware chorus. It's a very simple plugin. You can see here there's an on-off switch on the right. You get a bunch of different dimension modes, or basically chorusing modes. And you can choose to make the incoming signal mono before being processed by the chorus. Alright, so let's have a listen to this. First, let's have a listen to the incoming audio. It's electric guitar. Now let's turn it on. So that very first mode, dimension mode 0, we don't actually have the chorusing on, but the unit is still active. So think of it as a way to add very subtle analog style saturation into the signal. Alright, let's go through the 3 different chorusing modes. Now the 4th mode here is not a separate mode, it just adds on more of the wet signal into each of the 3 modes. So let's say I choose mode 2 and then turn on this button number 4. I'm just getting more wet signal in here. Let's now have a listen to the chorus on vocals, and I'm going to open up the extended section over here, so we get some additional controls. I'm going to unbypass the effect, so we get to change the oscillator shape, the LFO shape specifically, that's creating the chorusing effect. With the dynamic color, we can change the behavior of the internal compressor and expander stages of the unit. The highest position has lower attack and release values, whereas the lowest position has smoother attack and release values. The overall stereo width, so you can leave it as stereo, make it entirely mono, or further widen the signal with 100% side boosted. And of course there's a dry wet control as well. So a fairly simple chorus effect and also quite effective. Alright, now let's check out the Flanger BL20. As the name suggests, it's a flanger module. So a few more controls compared to the chorus. So a basic on-off button here. You can, similar to the chorus, make the incoming signal mono, basically sum the left and right signal before it goes into the flanger unit. This button will phase invert the flange signal. So when you mix that in with the dry signal, you get more of an exaggerated effect. Of course, there's a dry wet control here. Feedback amount with the regeneration. So before we look at these other controls, let's have a listen to what we have here. Same guitar signal. Now things get quite interesting over here. So you have 3 different control modes. So in auto mode, you can see here this is the slow moving LFO that is creating the movement in the flanger. And we can control that over here with the rate control. Make it even slower or faster. It can even be synced to your project tempo. Overall depth. Alright, so that was auto mode. There's also a manual mode where you get this knob here and you can control the position by hand. Now you can even automate that in the DAW. Pretty useful for creating like a static moment in the flange sound. Then there's this envelope mode. So in the envelope mode, we have this envelope follower. There's a threshold and decay control for it. So it listens to the incoming signal, creates a control signal, and that'll control the flanging effect. Now interestingly, you can have all these modes on running simultaneously. So have the LFO, the manual offset, as well as the envelope. By the way, that envelope trigger can come from the track itself, or you can set it to an external trigger. Alright, let's now hear the flanger on a pad-like sound. And I'm going to open up the extended section. Let's check out what we get over here. So there's a basic high-pass filter, a very fancy function generator that can replace the manual control. We can change the shape of the LFO that's creating the movement. The original is a triangle shape, and you get these 4 additional shapes. Then finally, there's a stereo offset. So the high-pass filter does a pretty decent job of cleaning up the low end. You can try some of the different shapes. Alright, let's now check out the function generator here. So I'll turn on add to manual, and now we can just click around to create a customized shape. You get these different drawing tools. There are presets as well. And there's also this interesting region option. You might recognize this from the Arturia Micro Freak. So this essentially just creates variations on the shape. And the speed of playback of the shape can be adjusted with the rate control, which is set in hertz over here, but can also be tempo synced. Alright, so let's hear this in action. So we need to enable the manual mode for this. So let's just use the manual mode and let's have a listen. So I guess this would be an easy way to add a little bit of a rhythmic effect onto the flange sound. Alright, so that's the flanger. Alright, the last effect in this modulation series from Arturia is the phaser Bytron, which is based on the Mutron biphase stompbox pedal. So let's have a listen to this again on the guitar. On-off switch up top here. It's a biphaser, meaning you get 2 different phasers. There are different routing options for the 2 phasers. Right now we're just hearing phaser A. You can turn on the second phaser, adjust the depth, feedback. Now you notice there are 2 depth controls. And that's the same for both. Phaser A also has 2 depth controls here. And the reason for this is we have 2 sweep generators. So with depth 1, the amount of sweep that's coming from generator 1, you control that here. And depth 2 is to control the modulation coming in from this sweep generator. The sweep generator has rate control, and again this can also be tempo synced. The rate control can be manual or can be switched to the pedal mode here. So in pedal mode, the rate of the sweep generator is controlled by this pedal. We're in the sine wave shape right now. I can switch to ramp or even the square. For the pedal, instead of being in manual mode, we can enable this envelope follower mode. So just like the flanger, there's an envelope follower, and we can use this to control the phaser modulation. You can take the signal from individual phasers or a combination of both, or it can be an external signal as well. We have this very useful visualization that shows us how that envelope follower signal is being generated. We can manipulate that envelope follower signal in various ways. You can compress the signal, up the input, adjust the attack, release time, and even add a delay to it. The extended controls we can access, which is built into the interface directly over here. So we get a high pass module. You can adjust the number of poles for both the phasers. So you can have up to 12 poles. So there are basically 12 notches in that filter. Same over here. A dry-wet mix control for the 2 phasers. And there's a dedicated right channel inverse button here for the signal that's coming in from generator 1 as well as generator 2. So just imagine that signal being inverted just on the right channel. And that signal interacting with the left channel should create some pretty interesting stereo widening effects. So there you have it, the 3 new modulation effects from Arturia. They sound pretty good, very simple and straightforward to use. Chorus being the simplest, and on the other end the phaser being a little bit more complex, but still fairly straightforward. Of course you get tons and tons of presets to work with. I wouldn't say there's anything specifically groundbreaking here, but it's good to know that Arturia has expanded on their effects collection with this modulation series. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this quick review of the 3 modulation effects from Arturia. This is Rishabh Rajan for Ask Audio signing off, and I'll see you in the next one.